Hello, everybody.
Hi everyone and welcome back to another video. Today, well now at this point, our topic is Medicare versus privatization in Canada, in Canada's healthcare. So, and then it goes on to say what do we have insurance for and what do we pay out of pocket. So, I'll start with the insurance part of it. So, here in Canada we have insurance. We have public health care for medical. When I say medical, in terms of like a hospital, like if you have any illnesses or if you need to go to the hospital or if you need to go to the clinic or whatever, we have insurance that covers that. Surgeries. I'm looking for one word that covers all of that, but it's not coming to me right now. But we do have public health insurance for that. In terms of the private um, health insurance or what you have to pay out of pocket, anything other than that. So if you have dental, if you have work insurance, like you get insurance from your workplace or whatever, that can cover it, or you have to pay out of pocket for dental because um, we don't have public health insurance for that. Drugs is another thing. If you need medication, you have to pay out of pocket, or if you have, most people get insurance from their work, that might cover some of it, or it might cover all of it. Eye care, I think eye care is another one. If you need glasses or if you have to get your eyes checked or whatever, again, that's a private thing. You could either have private insurance for that, or you can have, or you will have to pay out of pocket. I'm thinking about what else. Um, what other things private? But yeah, pretty much things like that. Okay, so naturopathic. If you need to go to a naturopathic doctor, you gotta pay for that, or your insurance will cover that. If you have to do a massage, acupuncture, insurance will cover that. Private insurance, or you will have to pay out of pocket. So basically, what is covered for the public health care is if you're sick, you have the doctor needs to check you out. If you have to get a surgery, like I said, blood work is covered publicly. But there's some cases where you have to pay out of pocket. But
certain blood tests.
Right, certain blood tests. But most blood tests is covered by your public health insurance. Um, that Ontario covers with OHIP, right? And then, you have anything else to add about that?
So there's nothing much to add to it because I think she touched everything else. What I would say though is that even with your private insurance, you can get massages as well. That's another one. And oh yeah, you said ice too.
Right.
Cause that's what I got with when now that I'm working and stuff. Those are the things that I got with my insurance, the private insurance. So yes, you gotta pay like a small little fee, maybe like $10 or whatever, but it's mostly covered most times. Yeah.
But so in Canada, there's also like there's a discussion, more like uh, I won't say an argument, but more like a bit of a controversy where it comes to public and private healthcare, where some people want us to have both. Like, for example, in the UK, I believe it's the UK that have both public and private healthcare, where you could either choose to have public or have private healthcare. You could either, like, let's say, for example, one time you want to use the public, and then the other time, if you choose to, you could use the private. So they have a mixture of both. Some countries only have public, some countries mostly have private. Like the US, I believe you have to pay out of pocket. They're only covered for like certain things, but majority of the people in the US have to use private health insurance, meaning in terms of like work insurance if they have it, or they have to pay out of pocket. Canada, we have public. Well, I don't want to say Canada. I'm going to talk about Ontario. We have public health care, so no Ontarians do not have to pay out of pocket for health care. like I said, the private things come with dental and the other things that I have mentioned before. And then of course, like the countries like Germany and the United countries and stuff, they have I think theirs is a case where they have like um, either public or private. I'm not sure, I could be maybe wrong with this, but they have public or private, but you have to choose one and stick to it. I don't know. That's something I just discussed in school, so I just bringing up my schooling here. But
I could add something
right,
too.
yeah.
You see, a part of healthcare here in Canada is based on the federal government, and the provincial government. And there's a law that I can't remember. It was about a native boy. He was living in Ontario, but I think that the federal government had to cover his bill, and it said the provincial.
No, you have the story mixed up.
Oh, you know what I
So
mean?
the story, yeah, the story is basically that the federal and the provincial were arguing pretty much over who should cover for his health care. Um, because he was sick. That was way back in the day. I think his name was what's his name? I cannot remember his name, but it became a law because during the time he was sick, he's a native, and during the time he was sick, the provincial and the federal were arguing back and forth about who should cover his health care bill. And like while they were arguing back and forth, unfortunately, he died. So then, after that, it became a law that it doesn't matter because with natives have a total different situation than even us, right? So the thing is, it became a thing where whether it's the federal or provincial, you make the decision after the person gets the care. That's the basis of it. They get the care, and then you could decide who's gonna fund the person, whether it's the provincial or the federal. But what I was saying in terms of the privatization versus the the public health care is that some people in here have been, a bit controversial about whether we should have private health care. And I mean, both sides can have pros and cons because, okay, for example, if you have private health care along with the public health care, people that can afford to pay for private health care, can pay for their health care, and then they'll get what they need if they could afford it. Not everybody could afford it, right? Like if you have a surgery and you have to pay $40,000 for it, and you could afford it, then the argument is for the private healthcare that you should be able to get that. But then on the other hand, this people that argue against it is like, well, the wait times are already long. So when you have people that can't afford privatization, and then they push that, they get to pay for their health care, then it kind of pushes back the people that can't afford it because obviously now they get the forefront, right? Like they're able to afford the surgery, so their surgeries will come first, right? And then the other people now who can't afford it will get pushed behind all the time, and then in a way that causes like it's not equitable then. It's like it's gonna cause problems. Yeah.
It's not
balanced. It will cause problems because if you need a surgery now and your case is super important, then it shouldn't matter whether you could afford it or not. And I think that is where the people that create the healthcare laws, what they're probably looking at the fact that healthcare is universal and everybody should get the same opportunity. Everybody should be able to get access to healthcare when they need it, not because you could afford it more, right?
It's actually a part of the 13 thing. World, what is it? The sustainable development goals is to have healthcare. Healthcare is very important for all persons. And I find up here is very different to home because, for example, I could go to any lab, I could show them my card, and I can get my blood taken. When I'm in Barbados, if I don't do my blood through the polyclinic or the hospital, I gotta go private. right? And let me tell you something. A blood test back home is 200 plus, depending on what you want and how much test you're getting, right? So I feel like there should be insurance in Barbados. There is insurance in Barbados. So I feel like for the public that we go to some of these private entities because it's one hospital to a whole set of people in Barbados who gotta get blood tests done.
And I
Right?
feel home in Barbados they need another hospital, but that's another topic we could
For,
discuss
yeah.
for another time. Because
But I think that insurance, I think that just like how Canada have the Canadian health card, I think that Barbados should have a health card too, because not everybody can afford to go to different to go to different places. And then, as Shinta would have said, the wait time. So sometimes, let me say for example, you got appointment, you let me say you foot hurting you, okay? Foot hurting you real bad and you need physiotherapy. You go to the hospital. This April now. All December. I know getting an appointment. So now me know the girl I know because my foot hurt me really bad. I gotta get as much change as I can to go private. So it I don't know. I should just say there's a imbalance.
Right. There's a there's an imbalance. It could be an imbalance in it. Even here, I obviously people that can afford it, those that are wealthy or whatever that can afford that healthcare will more so want to be able to pay for their healthcare so that they can get it sooner. The whole idea about privatization is that you want the healthcare sooner. You want your surgery now.
No.
You want your whatever it is now, right? You don't want to wait. And sometimes here in Canada, like I've said before, the wait time is an issue, and some people have to wait months. Some people might even have to wait years for a surgery or whatever. I don't know. I was fortunate enough once my situation got to the point of really bad to get my surgery really quickly. Um, and then when it comes to emergency surgeries, if they think you need a surgery, they'll give you it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because obviously, I mean, you still want to be careful that people aren't just doing things to you just because it's money coming in. Because regardless, that's money coming in their pocket. You know what I mean? Because once they do a surgery, that's a lot of money. So, but the good thing is, if they think that it's needed and you go to the ER, it's covered. So you don't even have to worry about it because it's already covered by the insurance. So then afterwards, they'll give you it if it is needed. But again, if your situation, because the way the hospital works is priority first. It's who has the worst case situation that is going to get cared for, whether you are rich or poor, whether you are black, white, yellow, or red. It doesn't matter. Whoever have the worst case situation is going to be cared for first. And then I guess so in a way that puts people in a trick by when they want their situation dealt with right now. Right? So I mean you gotta look at it from all sides, but at the end of the day, again, healthcare is universal. It should be accessible. It should be equitable. Everything. So everybody should be treated the same.
My only question is because with this whole privatization versus public health, right? What can the government do to have stuff in place for persons who cannot afford these surgeries? So, for example, as we said, somebody wants a surgery right now, but because they don't have the money, they have to wait. What positions are in place for persons to get the care that they need pronto without having to pay money?
But
that's my question.
But is that here or what you talk? Okay,
I mean worldwide.
Right,
because this is a worldwide problem.
Right, but in Canada, if you need a surgery, I can't speak for Canada whole, but I can speak for here in Ontario. If you need a medical need and it's like a life or death situation or it's a very, very serious situation, you're going to get that care right away. You don't have to pay for that. You're going to get it right away. And then if you have a scenario where you have two people that are extremely ill, and need a surgery or they need whatever, just saying two people just for example, whoever is, they have to look at the facts, they have to look at everything unthinkable, because again, you have to make sure that the equipment you have to make sure everything is like, for example, during COVID, then you had limited equipment, but you had a lot of people that were extremely sick to the point of death, and you gotta make a decision of who is the person that's gonna get it first, who is the person that need it first, who's the person that is worse off. And sometimes you even have to make a decision of, if a person is worse off, will giving them this machine be better for them, or would it be better for another person that's worse off? Like the medical team have a lot of decisions to
It's
make.
a lot. Speaking from the medical team.
Yeah.
We have to do a lot of prioritization.
It's a lot
of prioritization that you have to do. You have to think about this versus that. So is it going to be a patient who airway is constricted, or is it a person who is bleeding out? Right? So who am I going to deal with first?
And some people have the same diseases, or the same situations, the same life-altering situations, or whatever, or the same near-death experiences, or whatever, and they still have to make the decision about who has to get it first.
Who's the priority?
Who's the priority out of the two, even though they're in the same, pretty much the same position, right? So in a case, that's what I'm saying, in a case where somebody is poor, but they need health care now because it's a life or death situation, they're gonna get it more than likely, right? Because it's priority is who is the worst off situation that will get it first. It's not a first come first serve situation. It's not a I am wealthy or rich so I get it first. Is who is the worst off case. So if you have a problem with your, like, let's say you have a problem with your foot or something, and it's not a life or death situation, you might get pushed back. It might seem unfair, but you got somebody else that might be having appendicitis that could kill them right then and there.
Right.
So you got the person that got the situation with their foot or get pushed back a bit or whatever to deal with the more life
threatening
situations. So when you think of privatization now, the person now that God get the surgery now with their foot or whatever will come and pay for the surgery now, right? And get the surgery done. And the person that got the appendicitis or something, guess what? They got, I guess they will go away, because if you bring about privatization, I'm gonna guess now that most doctors probably would choose that because they might be able to charge their own rate or whatever, right? And get even more money that they might be getting from the government or whatever, and then the person could come and pay them, and guess what? The people that need it will get pushed back. So I see both cases, but I can more so understand the case of the universal
healthcare
and equitable healthcare. So
here goes my health manager.
So thank you again for watching this video. Hope it was informative for people, and if you have something to say about this situation
public health versus privatization,
then you can add a comment. For those who are watching, you can add a comment about it or whatever, or you could teach us something. You're always learning.
So guys, please like, share, and subscribe. Please leave a comment. We are people who can take anything. We're strong ladies, and we'll learn from each other, as my sister would have said. So until next time.
Bye. Forget, like, share, subscribe.
I'm so sorry.
Alright, bye-bye.
Bye.